What's happening, y'all? This is Todd Wilson with another episode of Elevate Your Game. Today, we have former Division I basketball player and now the director of basketball and NIL for Range Sports, Mr. KJ Smith.
How we doing?
Man, I'm great, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, we love to start this show with the wall of hoop movies. Your favorite hoop movie of all time and why?
I was looking around, so my favorite hoop movie is not on here. It's a newer one, Hustle, with Adam Sandler. And the reason why it's my favorite actually is because my dad was in it, obviously. He played an agent. Leon Rose was his name. He's like a big basketball agent. And the reason I loved it because I got to be a part of it. I actually flew out to Mallorca, Spain, to be a part of the filming process and, see my dad go to set every day and, talk with Adam, have dinners with Adam and, see them flip the switch. So I had a great time. And also just the movie in general, I thought it was a great basketball movie. A lot of these older movies you see around, the handle and everything, somebody shoots a jump shot and then it clips to somebody like a swish.
Or the pass to the self from above the rim.
Exactly. But they had a lot of real hoopers in it,
Yeah.
and they made it to make sure that, all right, we're going to really make a good basketball movie with good basketball content. It looks real. Anthony Edwards talking trash. It's just people being themselves, and I loved it.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Is Adam Sandler as funny in person as he is on TV?
He's really funny, but he's one of those people where, he is so himself and he doesn't get out of himself. Like, you come into a podcast today, you're going to get a haircut, you're going to wear your best outfit, where, he'll go to, the White House in some shorts and a golf polo. He doesn't care, So
I love it. When you have that much money, you can kind of do what you want.
Do whatever you want, you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely. And so first question is, when did you fall in love with basketball?
I fell in love. I've been a fan of basketball since an early age. My dad being who he is, and I was born with him being on TV speaking about basketball. So I was always at basketball games, events, all-star games. I would say honestly, I really fell in love with basketball going to all-star games early as a kid.
Yeah.
Just seeing all the Kobe Bryants and LeBrons and even Darren Williams, and Darren Williams was my favorite player growing up.
Dope.
Steve Nash. I just loved going to all-star games, and I would get a basketball, and by the end of the weekend, every all-star would have signed my basketball. And so I just went around and got all their autographs. I just was a super, super fan of the game before, I became a player.
And that's awesome. And that's a beautiful way to be introduced to basketball and to be in those spaces where, man, you get to see the best of the best compete against one another. So you didn't start. So your dad retired before he had you, or was there any overlap?
He retired the year I was born.
Okay.
So I never got to watch him play or anything like that. But always we have his tapes.
Right, you got YouTube.
Yeah, got YouTube. Wasn't. But I don't think I really sat down and watched a highlight tape of my dad until middle school.
Wow.
But he was always just seeing trophies around the house. But yeah, I think. Well, remind me of your question again. I lost train of thought.
No, I think that kind of answers it. Is just you didn't see him play, and so I know I've worked with a lot of kids who had their dads in the NBA, but it was after they were done playing, and they kind of didn't know what the world knew of their parents. Was that the case with you? Like, did you know your dad was as good as he was, and the Hall of Famer?
So I just knew him as mostly the TV guy, So I knew he played and had, the 10-year career, but I didn't know what he played like. I went to North Carolina. It wasn't until I went there where we extensively, not only do we watch film of, the current team, but they'll go back. They have plays that, the teams my dad was on, he would run.
Wow.
And so when I went to North Carolina, we started watching old North Carolina tapes. And I was like, oh, I kind of do move like him a little bit. Like I'm not jumping out the gym, but
right.
What his cadence is and the way he moves and walks, I was like, that kind of looks like me.
That's crazy.
So it was crazy to see that in real time. But yeah, I've watched every YouTube Kenny Smith highlight there is, and the finals games and stuff like that. Growing up, getting older, but I didn't watch it as a little kid.
Oh man! So when did you start taking basketball seriously as a player?
I mean, I started playing when I was very young. I was in the YMCA league in Houston, and then my dad saw me play a couple times and started coaching me all the way up through, high school AAU. But what a lot of people don't know is I didn't really want to be in my dad's shadow. Like, I wouldn't come up and introduce somebody and say, hey, my dad's Kenny Smith. I actually wouldn't tell anybody at my school. And that's how I kind of that's really how I made genuine friendships. And it was every time somebody found out, it was through somebody else, and then they would come up to me and be like, oh, you're Kenny Smith's son? I'd be like, who told you? I just really wanted to be my own person. And so it is hard when your dad's your AU coach, but off the court, I wouldn't go around bragging about who I was. I just wanted to be a normal kid. And it wasn't until I got to North Carolina to where I was like, I'm just going to embrace who it is. I am his son, and it's actually a benefit. It's not something that's going to hold you back at all. But not doing it in a braggadocious way, but doing it in a way to where, I stand tall in who I am.
Yeah, you have the legacy, right? You hold the last name, or his first and last name, and so that legacy is something. Like, you see it now with Bron and Bronny, right?
Yeah.
Kid is on his dad's team, you know, and so like you said, there's some good pieces of that, but also, I guess what you were trying to avoid, did you feel pressure being his son and playing basketball, or is that what you were able to avoid by not telling people that you were his son?
I felt a little bit of pressure, but honestly, for me, and this may be different from any other NBA player's kids, for me, once I stepped on the court, I was on the court. When you're playing at North Carolina with 22,000, fans watching, and you're going against Duke, it's not, oh, my dad's Kenny Smith also. It's like there's enough pressure already that, is already instilled within the environment. So I didn't feel outside pressure because my dad, I don't know what it's like for him to not to be my dad.
Right.
I was born with him on TV. I've known that longer than him not being on TV. So I didn't feel pressure with that.
Yeah. And then moving in, so you came, you were in Houston, and then when did you move to California?
I moved to California when I was about 7 years old, and we moved to Santa Clarita and went to Legacy Christian up until 6th grade. 7th grade, I went to Oaks Christian, 7th through 11th, and then my senior year, they had fired my coach. My first coach was Andre Chevalier, and then he went on to Sierra Canyon. And then my second coach, AJ Moye, they had just fired him.
After he won a state title?
Yeah, after a state title. And so we went, and you know how Mater Dei plays, they bring their high school team to play AAU. So we were in Vegas, and my dad was coaching me, and I might have had 30 points. And in the handshake line, Gary McKnight was like, man, you should have sent your son to me a long time ago, his freshman year. He's like, well, it's not too late. They just fired his coach. And so by that weekend, I was, school started in 2 weeks. I had made the decision I'm going to Mater Dei for my senior year. So it was a big decision. You got to think of friends I grew up with since 7th grade, going somewhere your senior year. You're missing out on prom, missing out on, graduating with all your friends. But I made the jump, and that was the first big basketball decision I think I made in my life. And it was a great decision, playing Gary McKnight, winning as California coach in California history, or winning as coach in California history. So I had a great time. It was like a real experience of a basketball factory. Had Rex Pfluger on my team that went to Notre Dame. He was top 50 in the country. Michael Cage, 7-foot center. And then you go into the locker room, and it looks like a college locker room. Then you go in the back, and he has like a Nike factory store in there. It was a great time. No,
Mater Dei is different. That's for sure. Did the expectations get raised, and how did you raise to that level of being on a national level team like Mater Dei?
Yeah, so the expectations are for sure raised because they had won 4 state championships in a row, and I was coming in. I was the best player on my team my junior year. And now I'm going into a space where, I'm playing with ranked players for the first time on a consistent basis that all are shot hungry. And I was a guy that liked to shoot also. So it was, fitting in and not wanting to step on people's toes, but also trying to make a name for myself. And so he brought me off the bench to start. And it wasn't until I had to have a conversation with my dad, like, you can't be scared to step on people's toes. You got to, shoot. You got to be hungry. You got to, I watched the podcast the other day. It's like, you got to be hungry. That's funny. Oh, yeah. But I had a great conversation with Isaiah Thomas, actually. And he told me, my dad had me talk to him, and that was my turning point. To where he was like, look, you go into the court, it's no longer your friends. It's, you're really going to war. And you can't go in just to play basketball. You have to really try to disrespect somebody. And so that mindset got me into a different mode to get into my starting position. But it was an amazing time. It was an amazing time. And it was the first time my eyes opened to high-level basketball. And I've been a benefit to go to these great scenarios and positions because of who my dad is. And I've always, been able to honor those opportunities by working as hard as I can.
Right. Yep. And then how hard is that? Like, I see a lot of times, this is just with kids in general, right? Understanding what hard work is. How were you introduced to hard work, and when did that take place in basketball?
I always worked hard. I think I have a great skill in that I'm not comfortable just laying down and sitting on the beach. That's not me. Yep. I like, and you were probably like this as a hooper, if there was a day where I didn't go to the gym, like, I would have an itch.
Yep.
Yep. And that's the same thing with me now that I'm stopped playing. I have that same itch if I feel like I'm not doing something work related, or I'm not pushing myself every day. And, no matter how much money or how successful I get, I think I'll always have that itch just to always continue to grow and push myself and work hard in something, whatever capacity that is.
Do you think that's something that your parents ingrained into you, or where do you think that came from? Or is it do you think that's a natural thing, or do you think that's like ingrained?
I think it's a little bit of a natural thing. I think it's how I was raised. I'm a middle child, and I've always been a connector of some sort. So, like, any locker room I've been in, you know how every locker room has cliques. But I've always been the guy I'll go hang out with this group, go hang with this group. Now everybody's hanging out. I just been that person. So I just feel like it's an innate ability I have to connect with people, and no matter who they are, where they're from. And I just really like working hard. It's a problem sometimes because I don't know when to chill, but it's something I like to do.
You'll find balance. I found balance in that when I met my wife. It's like she made me relax, because with her, she's laid back, she's at home, she's a gamer, and so she doesn't like being out in the social. So that's where I got my balance from, because I'm still like that. I'm outside, and she's like, no, well, if you want to spend time with me, you got to be home. And so you'll find that balance when you get married, and I think that's why it's so important to be married and have a woman who understands you and lets you be you, but also, hey, you got to chill out sometimes, and
exactly.
you'll enjoy relaxing with someone, a special someone, and then rather than that's work too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you told your high school phase. So AAU, you got to play for your dad. Aim high. Still, I go work out at Santa Cruz Athletic Club.
Yeah, we got pictures.
Yeah,
on
you
the
guys
wall,
are all on the wall still. Man, what are the most enjoyable times that you remember through your AAU experience?
I had a great time just because I really grew up with all my teammates. So we didn't go into a big circuit until high school. So we had from, fourth grade to, I would say 10th grade, 10th, 11th, the same group of kids running the same type of plays, all the different options. All those kids you see on the wall, like Cam Carroll, Aston Beal, they were my teammates for 10 years. Wow. So it's like we had almost full careers together growing up. And Brandon Boyd, another one that's worked with you. Yeah. So it was just so fun because these are real friends that you would go over their house after practice.
Right.
And I cherish those memories so much because I remember having a 2-hour practice and then going to Cam's mom and saying, hey, can I come over tonight? Or could Cam come over? Yeah. And he'd be like, you ask my mom, because my mom won't say yes to me. But I think I really enjoyed those times because as you get older, it becomes more of a business. And you get to college and you have a 2-hour and 30-minute practice, and you're like, I want to see everybody but these players and these coaches. Like right. I want to go to my girlfriend or hang out with somebody else. So it's a fun time it was a fun time for basketball for me.
Yeah, no, I try to let these kids know like this moment, and especially in middle school, because he gets more serious in high school with recruiting and everything. Like these are your best moments when you go on these AAU trips. Stop hopping teams. Yeah. Stay with your AAU. No college coaches are recruiting you in middle school. Like have fun and enjoy this moment. These are going to be the most memorable times of your life, especially in middle school.
Yeah.
And then high school comes, and now there's moments on the court that you remember. What do you remember? Do you remember your best AAU game?
Best AAU game, I had 20 and a half.
Dang.
Best AAU game. I had a lot of great memories. We were down like 25 in the first half. Then we like came back slowly. Same tournament that Gary McKnight was when we played Mater Dei. Like slowly came back, and then it was like a 2-point game. The coach. So my dad's the coach, and the other coach, I forgot, they were from the East Coast, but he was talking, trash to my dad, like, oh, you give him the calls because he's Kenny Smith. And he just like exploded. Then they started going at it. And so we slowly started coming back. And we were down 2 with 2 seconds left, or like 1 second left. And my dad just told me, go get it. He's like, it's not over, go get it. So I get it. They throw a bounce pass in. I'm at the 3-point line. Or like I guess it would be their 3-point line. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Take one dribble, full court, half court shot, game winner.
Hit it.
Down 25, and yeah, we won. It was crazy. It was a showcase game. Those are, I think, my favorite AAU memories. And then Stanley's mom, rest in peace. But she was watching the game, and it was a fun time.
That's awesome. Man.
Yeah.
I love that. I love those moments. Is that on YouTube somewhere?
I gotta find it.
We gotta find that clip.
We didn't have Baller TV and all.
Right. It was easy to. Yeah. You would have been on. You would have went viral.
Yeah,
something
exactly.
Like that now.
Exactly.
Now you're recruiting. Did you kind of always know that you wanted to go to North Carolina, and was that just what it was? And
yeah, so that I didn't at all. So like I said, I didn't want to be in my dad's shadow at all. So I didn't want to do I didn't go to North Carolina game. I didn't do none of that. Wow. So I'll just tell you my basketball story. So after 7th through 11th, I told you Oaks Christian, 12th grade Mater Dei, the only offer I had was Cal Poly, and they pulled it. And then I had a few others. I had Northern Arizona, but I didn't feel right. And Coach McKnight was really pressing me, or not pressing me, but suggesting to go to prep school. I've never heard of it. Now it's more popular, but it's mostly on the East Coast, and especially for post grad.
Right.
So he was like, look, I think it could really benefit you. I had talked to a few guys that did it, and I ended up at IMG.
Okay.
And it was the best thing I could have did. Played with Jonathan Isaac, played with Demetric Trice and Aleem Ford, who both went to Wisconsin and had great careers playing overseas. Aleem just played in the Olympics against USA. Mind you to say, all of those guys on that team, I still shot a lot. Right. I had to get my shots off, but it just transformed my body. I was always able to shoot, but I didn't have the body for it. I wasn't toned. I never had a 6-pack. But there changed my whole diet. You're not eating fried foods. You're not eating out or doing anything like that. And you're working out 4 times a day. You have no choice but to get better.
Right.
And I did. And I had a stretch there where I had 6 games in a row with 30 points. Right. I actually send a couple of my clients down there now. I think it's the best place you can send a kid, just because it's like a factory down there. But from there, still didn't have many offers. I think a big problem for me was I could shoot, but I didn't have the handle. If I would have got held back in 8th grade and went to core prep, it would have probably changed my whole career trajectory. But I ended up doing it a post-grad year. And so from there, Damon Stoudemire came to me and said, hey, KJ, I like you as a player. I have a spot for you. This is going to be my first college coaching job at a school called University of Pacific in Stockton, California. And I didn't know the school, but I did know that they had 3 kids from the Valley that went there, and one was went to Chaminade, or they had 2 kids from Chaminade and one from El Camino. And I knew them growing up. I played against them growing up. So I was like, hey, I'm in Florida. I'd love to go back to California.
Right.
And Damon, I trust you. So he's like, look, you're going to be a walk-on, and next year I'll have a scholarship for you. So the first game of Damon Stoudemire's college coaching career, I was the starting point guard as a walk-on.
Wow.
So it kind of shows you the hard work I put in, you know, to get there, because they did have another freshman guard on scholarship. Up and down freshman year, had games with 20 points, had games with DMPs, just, you know, freshman year. We had Gonzaga in our conference. We were up at halftime. It was a big deal. And they kept running a backdoor play against me and went up 10. You know, just stuff like that happened. But, you know, after the year, had a great time. Stockton at the time, I also have to mention this. It was ranked the 12th worst city in America at the time.
Whoa.
When I went there.
Dang.
Yeah, so that just shows you what Stockton was like. So, but yeah, started my first game as a walk-on, up and down season, 20 points, did not play some games. And after the year, you know, Dame came to me and was like, look, it was a room of all the coaches, and they had end of the year meetings. And, you know, they even kicked off some guys off the team. So I'm getting text messages like, oh, yeah, you know, they said they want me back, whatever. And then so I'm like, oh, I'm going to be on scholarship. They're getting rid of all these kids. And Dame, room full of coaches, is like, KJ, we love you. You know, you're a great kid. You have great energy. We love your effort in practice. But next year we just won't have a scholarship for you, but we'd love to have you back. So it's like, damn, you know, another year, no scholarship. I didn't really know what it felt like to be on scholarship.
I said, why do you think that happened though? If you had a decent freshman year,
I would say I had an okay freshman year. But truthfully, I don't know. You know, and I didn't care to. You know, I wasn't the guy to speak up for myself at that time. I was just like, okay, I don't know what that means anyway. I'm not paying it, so, and I didn't know what it felt like to be on scholarship. But it did hurt. So.
You mean it hurt? What hurt about it?
So there is always this, you know, a stigma of being a walk-on, no matter, you know, you could play a whole game. And I didn't like it, you know, so I just felt like I should have been. But it also made you reflect on your performance during that time and said, maybe if I would have performed better, then I would have got that scholarship. Yeah. So talked to my dad, and he said, you know, now we got to get out of there. So, and I love Damon till this day. I see him all the time. Yeah. So he called Roy Williams and said, hey, Roy, you know, we have a lot of coaches in the Carolina family tree that are coaching at different places. Do you know anybody that needs a point guard? And he was like, well, Kenny, he's walked on somewhere already. Why don't you have him, you know, join the Carolina family? I was like, really? I was like, well, let me ask him. So my dad asked me. I said, no, I'm not doing it. And then my mom, I tell my mom, like, yeah.
I got to give you a pause. So these are my first AAU jerseys. This is in Corona, the IE, but you see their model.
The Tar Heels,
North Carolina. Like, for you to say no to any type of spot in North Carolina hurts my soul, but I get it at the same time.
But you have to realize,
understand.
At that point in my life, I wasn't introducing anybody. Unless somebody told you, I wasn't telling you my dad was Kenny Smith.
That's why you go.
I was trying to keep it. Like, people, he would come to the game and people like, yo, your dad's Kenny Smith. If you were not on the team, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just who I was.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And then I didn't think I would be, I'm like, they had just won a national championship. I'm not that. I'm not that. You know, I know that's not me. I'd never been to a game. Wow. And so
I talked to your mom. Yeah.
So I talked to my mom. My mom and dad met at UNC. She majored in journalism, and she was like, "You have to do it." You know, my grandma lives there, and she was like, "This is it. This is, you know, pray about it. This is like gonna be so big for you." You know, I was just remembering being, you know, a walk-on, and I was like, I can't imagine just being on the bench the whole game. It was just like a lot. I'm looking up workouts. They're running up hills and doing all types of stuff preseason. I was like, I'm not in this shape. So I go on a movie date, and it's like a first date, and I get a call about a week later. It's a Chapel Hill area code. And I run out the movie theater. I'm like, this can only be one person or somebody from over there. And I answer, and it's like, KJ? I was like, how you doing? Who's this? He's like, KJ, this is Roy Williams. I was like, how you doing, Coach? He's like, you may not know me. I was like, Coach, I know who you are.
Right.
He's like, all right, well, we just won a national championship, and Joel Berry was our most valuable player. And I don't promise anything. I don't promise 5 stars playing time or anything. But I will say this. For you, Joe Barry was our most valuable player. If he gets a steak, you'll get a steak. If he gets a pair of shoes, you'll get a pair of shoes. If he gets the nicest Jordans, you're going to get them. And that I was sold. Wow. I was sold. And so I ran back in the movie theater, and I was like, hey, I don't think this is going to work.
I got to go.
So basically told him, I'd love to come. I would love to be there. And that first week was eye-opening. So I went, and it was probably 3 weeks after they won a national championship. Oh, wow. It was a month and a half after they won it. A month and a half is when I reported to campus for like summer school. And it had felt like I won. We would go up, and Theo Pinson put me under his wings first day on campus. And he's showing me around, taking me to all the old spots, and people were just coming up to Theo like, hey, thank you. I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, oh, we won a national championship, everybody.
That's what happened.
Yeah, it is like everybody, and then we would go to parties, and Joe Barry was another one. And, we'd go to, you're right, you're Joe Barry, and I'm right here. And, just a line of people looking to take pictures and get autographs from him. And he's still in college, Sheesh. There's a line.
Love it.
And then I'm just right here like, yeah, this is my guy. Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, me, KJ, this, And then first day of actual school, there was a sports and business class. And it was about 150 people in the class. And they had a guest speaker, and the guest speaker comes and says, hey, I just want to let you guys know I'm an LSU guy, but I'm a big North Carolina guy. And the biggest heartbreak of my college basketball fandom career of Carolina is this clip right here. And he shows my dad going up for a dunk, and then he got thrown out the air. They were in the Elite Eight, they were about to go to the Final Four, and he broke his wrist when he landed. He's like, if Kenny Smith would have stayed healthy, they would have won a national championship. And then everybody in the classroom just looks at me. I was like, I didn't tell who's telling you guys this,
We had Google back then.
Yeah, exactly. So for him to say that, and he didn't even know I was in the classroom, I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. This is God telling me this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
But when I went to North Carolina, it was an unbelievable experience. You talk about, raising the level of play. I got to redshirt, and every day I was going against practice against Joel Berry, 5-star in high school, was in his senior year, most valuable player, Final Four. Theo Pinson, #1 player in the country. Jalik Felton, 5-star, and I had no sub. So it was just me every day. And got to play the next year. It was Kobe White, top 5 player in the country. And I wasn't even paying attention to high school rankings. These kids would just come in. And so I had a cockiness about me this time because I had just played against Joe Barry all year. I'm like, Kobe, I'm gonna cook you in practice every day. And I'm still friends with Kobe to this day because of that mentality I had, where I was like, Kobe would go at me, I would try to go at him. He won a lot more times than I win. But it was a great time. Played with 10 pros, the best cards in the country. Cole Anthony came the year after that. Ended up, when Cole got hurt, I earned a scholarship and ended up starting. So it was a great experience that propelled and trajected me to a whole new height that I didn't expect, once I made that decision.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing what one person can do, right? That call from Roy Williams to let you know that he wanted you there, right? And not just like, oh, go there because I went there, son. That type of thing. Like that phone call from him changed that. And so that's one thing. And then, man, when you just let go, right, and let the process happen, where you end up.
And how crazy is this? So, and you're a Tar Heel guy. So my first year, this is all divine timing. I saw them win a championship. Yes, I would have loved to win a championship, but I had a great 4 years. My first year there, Kendall Marshall, who was my favorite Tar Heel. Anytime somebody asked who's your favorite Tar Heel, it wasn't my dad, it was Kendall Marshall. He came back to school and he also started coaching, and he worked me out every day. Wow. Just me. Like, I was his like project of like who he can make better. And when I tell you, I felt like one of the best. I felt like an elite guard. I felt like, you know, and that's how I got to the position. I almost started, or not started, I almost played. Seventh Woods was going through some trouble. I almost played in the Duke game at Duke, and it was going to be my third game playing at UNC. Wow. So it was a great time. But I started against Gonzaga when they were number 1 in the country, played against UCLA in Vegas. My first game was at Wofford. I started and we played in the old arena in Carmichael as like a throwback game.
I remember that game. Yeah.
So it was fun times. It was fun times. A lot of stressful times, you know. But
I say, what is it like playing in the ACC?
It requires a lot of, you know, focus and attention. So my first year, we had we had Cam Johnson, Luke May, Kenny Williams, and Joel Berry and Theo, and we smacked everybody. I think we were preseason number 3, and we had so much time. So I would come in as like the walk-on. I would come in the last whatever minutes of the game, you know, the scrub minutes, whatever. We were beating people by so much. I would come in with 5 minutes left, and we're up by 30, man. Right, or up by 15 or 18. You know, Yeah. So the first 5 games, I didn't miss a shot, and I was averaging like the first 5 or 6 games, I was averaging like 7.8. And which was actually more than our starting shooting guard. I was averaging more than our starting shooting guard just because I was in there and I came in and I was like, all right, this is my time. I'm on the biggest stage, and I'm making the most of every minute. And I didn't miss until we played Michigan at Michigan. We got blown out, and I got 5 minutes the other way to where it was like, all right, Jordan Poole is still in the game, and you know you got to guard Jordan Poole, and it was a different time. It wasn't as fun as being up, but. I had a great experience.
Man, that's awesome. Didn't you ever think about playing pro?
I did think about playing pro, but I just felt like something else was calling for me. It was right after COVID, and that last COVID year was so hard, just trying to operate in a system where we're truly staying 6 feet apart. We couldn't go, the whole college experience was flipped upside down to where you no longer could, you know, even be out at a restaurant, or you couldn't, you know, go to class, and you couldn't. I just didn't expect myself to continue to do this in another country, and you know, the salaries was something that kind of threw me off. I was like, okay, I've been away from my family for 4 years. You know, we live in LA, so you see the lifestyle that we have. And you know, going to All-Star Weekend and being a part of my family's life, seeing my little brother who's a junior in high school now and 6'6". He's 6'6"
now?
Yeah, he's 6'6".
I saw he got his little muscles on him too.
A little bit. He needs to do more push-ups. But you know, he was in 5th grade at the time, and he was going to 6th grade and middle school. I was like, I don't want to miss any more of that, because I had, for 4 years, I would only come home for at most 3 days at a time. So I just wanted to come back and reevaluate. Okay, how can I do business in basketball? Yeah. And I had a great start during COVID. Actually, me and my dad launched Jet Academy, which was a virtual basketball camp, and on the premise that, you know, he does a basketball camp in Chapel Hill every year for the last 25 years. We have 600 kids stay overnight for a week. Wow. This year we couldn't do it. If we just did the same thing, you know, on a global level, universal level, anybody could come, no matter, you know, they don't even have to stay overnight. You could always learn a tip or two online. So started that, and then that got my business mind flowing. And so my senior year actually was, after basketball season ended, I was writing articles for a company you now know called On3. Oh, yeah. But before I was their first basketball hire. So I was writing articles. Kids would commit on. I would go share live. 5-star kids would commit to Florida on my Instagram live, and then the owner Shannon Terry was like, KJ, there's this kid we have that's really good in football, and any recruit that's about to commit somewhere, he knows where they're gonna go. So he has all the inside source because he's making the edits for him. I was like, oh well, in basketball we have one of those. It's called Joe Tipton. You need to hire him. So I brought Joe Tipton to On3, and now he's like, this mega. He's gonna be the next Woj.
Yeah.
And so it was a cool upbringing. And then agent came to me and said, hey, I see you writing articles online. Your dad's a broadcaster. Do you have any interest in doing it on TV for ESPN? They're looking for somebody for ACC Network. I was like, I'll stop writing these papers today. Please get me out of here. It was like 30 papers a month. But I was good in school, but it was just, I like talking rather than writing stuff down.
Social.
And, I felt like once I had that article done, it was so much work and I had so much, it was just gone, So went to ACC Network. I was the youngest broadcaster on the team, and it was the year right after I had played. So I had a great insight because for the last 4 years, I do all the ACC, inner workings and players. And so I was broadcasting with guys I played with and played against and coaches I played with and played against.
I did not know that part.
Yeah. So I was the youngest broadcaster. I did it for a year. And that same year, UNC ended up going to the Final Four. So it was a great year for ACC basketball. Went to the Final Four and broadcasted the Final Four table. I brought my dad on from the ESPN table. And so it was a great experience. But I was always learning for more. TV wasn't for me. This is actually one of the first interviews I've done since I stopped doing. Might be the first interview I've done since I stopped doing.
Why, thank you. I appreciate it.
ESPN. But I went and got my agency license. I was like, just in case. I was flying from California to Bristol, Connecticut once a week, and I would take the red eye. I'd leave at midnight, land at 6 a.m., drive 2 hours to Bristol, and then take a nap, go on at 5 p.m., get off at I'd go on at like 6 p.m., get off at midnight, and then study for like 2 hours for my agency test, wake up at 5 a.m. to the airport and drive home. So that's why I'm saying I'm wired a little different to where it's just like, I liked I didn't mind working, but it was lonely, and the TV wasn't fulfilling for me. It just wasn't me. And so I went to All-Star Weekend and I got a tap on my shoulder, and an agent from Wasserman was like, hey, you don't know me, but I know you and your family. I see you on TV doing ACC Network. Keep doing your thing. I was like, oh, who are you? He's like, oh, I'm an agent, Wasserman. This is my client, Evan Mobley. About to be Rookie of the Year.
Was it Joe?
Yeah, it was Joe. And I was like, well, I want to do what you do. And like a month later, I was integrated into the Wasserman system, and Joe did a great job of, really, opening the door for me and the behind the scenes of business. And, going into, it was eye-opening in the sense that I always saw the basketball light as talent first and saw my dad's point of view, but I never realized that there could be an overarching and visible hand that controls everything. To where, there's a reason these trades happen, and it's not because the player is saying, hey, I want out. There's a lot of guys that really control the NBA, and you've been around them, and you don't need to be the loudest person in the room.
Not at all.
But there's a guy that you've never even known that has a Richard Mill on, and he's got his sleeve covered, but he's really the agent behind everything that's happening. So I fell in love with it. I was like, this is me. And so for the last 3 years, I've been doing that.
Man, that's awesome, man. Just the transition of being a hooper, knowing that you wanted to get into business, and kind of stumbling upon journalism and then broadcast journalism, but then flipping that into being an agent. I don't know many people have done that route to become an agent.
But it's interesting too how I got here, because at every stage of where I'm at, I've never looked at something else. Like when I was even at the end of the bench of North Carolina, I was just like dumb, naive, and stupid, which you have to be to wake up every day and practice 3 hours and really, give it your best effort.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was going to be in the NBA, or play professional.
Yeah.
And so I trained every day like I was going to do that. And then when I got to On3, thought I was going to be there for 30 years, So, but I truly feel like I have found a home and agency, and I feel like I'm not going anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
No, man, you've been doing well silently, right? Like the way you move. So have you were with Wasserman for a while?
Yeah, I was with Wasserman for 2 years, and then now I'm at Range Sports, director of basketball.
Awesome.
Big factor for me was being able to, be a director and, having a basketball conversation. There's not that conversation that happens at my company of 207 people that isn't involved with me. And be able to build something and bet on yourself. And Joe will tell you, it was not easy. I cried like a baby when I left. Joe was like a big brother. But it was something that I really look back on, and I'm happy I did.
What would be the first thing you would tell somebody who's looking to be an agent that would give them a jump start?
I was looking to be an agent. I would say go to every major event possible, and whether it's in not even basketball, but just go to where are they starting at? Or like college?
So yeah, they graduated in college. They played basketball.
Yeah. So I would say if you're in college right now, I would be integrated into your sports team in some way, to where you're a manager of the team, or you figure out some way where you can work out with the team. And if not, if you run into players on the team on campus, say, hey, I'm looking to be an agent, but right now I just want to be, of service to players. I want to be around players. Let me help make your schedule. Let me help you do this type of thing. Or, help just organize their life and provide value in some way. Because later down the road, those players are going to be at the agencies and going to want somebody that's, in their corner, because a lot of these agencies have a lot of players that they need to service, and they end up hiring a friend of one of the players or something like that. So if you can work your way in that way, I would say do that. You have to network with the players on your campus first, because you're not going to really run into, in any other scenario, that many athletes in one in one standing.
No, absolutely. What has been, when you decided, only 2 years of being an agent to going to be a director, and that, if I'm not mistaken, this to be like the first time they had a basketball division at Range?
Yes.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah, so we helped launch the basketball division. So for me, it was big because I'm not siloed in just being basketball. It's basketball, media, and gaming, and anything else. I have all those resources and marketing, of course, around me, to where I'm not just siloed in one department, and I can't focus on anything else, because I did